Some of us, we find ourselves running into the same mistakes over and over again. You're having the same frustrations in your life over and over again. So what are you not seeing? Or what don't you want to see? Well, maybe, just maybe, you are self-deceived. Welcome to season 3, episode 1 of the I'm Not Perfect podcast. This is a podcast where we embrace the imperfect journey of self-growth. I'm your host of the podcast, Pre Speaks, and I'm here to remind you that perfection is overrated, but progress is what truly matters. So join me for discussions around the struggles many of us go through, but don't always talk about, and let's figure out how to get through them one imperfect step at a time. Okay, first and foremost, what's up, y'all? What's up? I know it's been a minute. I know it's been about 1 year since I've dropped a podcast episode. But guess what? Listen, I'm so glad to be back here just doing what I love. Honestly, over this past year, it's really been a year of just growth, of self-growth, me learning more about myself and learning more ways to better myself, right? I always say this is a journey. It's a continuing journey of improvement and development. And so let me see. Last year, I would say I really spent a lot of time, y'all, studying the brain. And I know y'all probably what you studying the brain? What you talking about? But for real, I study the brain as a way to better understand how I work, right? So that I can know how to implement or know what to implement so that I can be able to continue to grow. And so I would say that I've learned so much about the brain, about concepts, about, making changes neurologically. And, it's just all things that, again, have helped me become a better person and has helped me to improve my steps, my journey into growing. But then also at the same time, I always think about I always have, or I always had my podcast in the back of my head, okay, cool. I'm gonna learn all these things. And then I am going to, make episodes about what I've learned so that y'all can implement these things to help you all on your journey of self-growth. Right. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And again, I'm so excited to be here and to start this new episode of the 3rd season. So I really appreciate y'all for just being here, for tuning in. Those of you, especially those of you who have tuned in from the beginning, thank you. For real. Thank you. I appreciate it. So today's episode, out of all people you lie to, don't lie to yourself. Let's get into it. All right, so today we are talking about self-deception, y'all. Specifically about the power that self-deception can have over your life. So much that you might not even know that you're being self-deceived. And this can be because you've practiced overlooking the truth so much to the point that it's become the thing you do. It's become a habit. And so you will see things not as they are, but instead how you prefer to see them. And if you are choosing to look at things in a way that is not true, in a way that is distorted, that excludes actual evidence, how is this impacting your everyday life? How is this affecting your relationships and the decisions you make every day? Some of us, we find ourselves running into the same mistakes over and over again. You're having the same frustrations in your life over and over again. So what are you not seeing? Or what don't you want to see? Well, maybe, just maybe, you are self-deceived. Now, what is self-deception? So self-deception is when you convince yourself something is true or not true in order to avoid dealing with the consequences at hand. And so here's what you'll do. You'll distort information. You'll hide how you truly feel. You'll hide your motives or try to manipulate your circumstances in a way that makes you feel justified. And you'll do this by denying, by blaming, making excuses, downplaying things, in other self-justifying ways that, it may have you feeling relieved in the moment, but it also leaves you feeling upset, unhappy, trapped, or miserable. Take, for example, a woman, let's say a woman who has evidence that her husband is cheating, right? She might have found text messages of him talking to other women. Or maybe she found receipts of dinner reservations that she knows she wasn't a part of. Like, hold on, that wasn't me. Nope. But she refuses to acknowledge that evidence in order to maintain this illusion of a happy relationship and avoid facing the fact that she's been betrayed. And despite knowing the truth on some level, she convinces herself that, everything is fine. I'm okay. When really she's not. Or how about this one? How about when, and I know a lot of y'all may be able to relate to this. Let's say somebody who is looking to go on a diet, right? Okay, you're looking to go on this diet, but yet you want to eat unhealthy foods. You want to eat this chocolate cake that I know it looks so good and tasty, but and you might tell yourself like, okay, I'm gonna just make up for it by exercising later, or you know what, I'm gonna just start my diet over next week. Right? How many of us have done that? But here's the thing. You find yourself continuing to eat unhealthy foods, and therefore you never reach your fitness goals, and you feel guilty over and over again. I want to mention Dr. Robert Trivers, he's a prominent scientist and pioneer in the study of self-deception. And he once said, if I'm deceiving myself, I'm both victimizing and victim. So where's the gain? Where's the gain? And that's a good point. Where is the gain if you are both the deceiver and the one being deceived? Make that make sense. And listen, real quick, I want to bring up the story of Adam and Eve because I think it's very interesting that in the story of Adam and Eve, how deception is introduced very early. Like, for those of you who aren't familiar with the story of Adam and Eve, so they're characters in the Bible's book of Genesis, which tells the story of the creation of the world and humanity by God. And so as the story goes, God created Adam, the first man on earth, and then he also created Eve, the first woman. And Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden, which pretty much was a paradise where they had everything they needed. But they were forbidden from eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God told them that if they ate from this tree, then they would die. So then one day, a serpent approaches Eve, which the serpent is portrayed as Satan. And Satan is a figure in the Bible who pretty much rebelled against God. And so he was cast out of heaven. And so he's not on good terms with God. And so Satan approaches Eve and he tells Eve that it's okay to eat the forbidden fruit and she won't die. And so Eve, she looked at how pleasing the fruit looked. The story pretty much explains that the fruit was desirable to the eyes. And even though she knew God told her not to eat from the tree, she eats the fruit and then convinces Adam to eat it. And as a result, they both were kicked out of the Garden of Eden and forced to live a life of hardship and suffering. And you know what? I just feel like there are a few things to uncover here. Like, hold on. First and foremost, okay, why is self-deception introduced in the Bible as early as it is? It's actually in the third chapter of the book of Genesis. And, I'm wondering, like, is it because deception is so easy to fall victim to? Like, are we bound to do things we know we shouldn't do, even at the cost of detrimental consequences? Secondly, the story says that Eve ate the fruit after seeing how desirable it looked. Therefore, are we more likely to be self-deceived based on how attractive or pleasing something is to us? And then lastly, Eve ate the fruit because she was tempted by Satan. And when we look around in today's world, right, we see there are so many temptations around us. Look around. You might have temptations from the people in your life, like your family, friends, associates, the influences you see on social media. And I mean, even the temptations from your own self. And so I thought about this, which leads me to come back to the question of, why do we deceive ourselves? So here's what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to tell you what the research says about why self-deception evolved. And then I'm going to go into a few other reasons on why we self-deceive. So Robert Trivers, the scientist I mentioned earlier, and again, the reason I bring him up is because he's one of the pioneers in the study of self-deception. And he mentions that self-deception likely evolved so that we could be better able to deceive other people. So if we could convince ourselves of a lie and truly believe that lie, the easier it would be for other people to believe it and not detect it. And typically we deceived others for some type of advantage. And I mean, back in those days, in the caveman days, y'all, we did it to improve our chances of survival. For example, in order to gain resources we didn't have access to. We did it to find mates to have kids with, or to form alliances, or gain some type of social status. So basically, self-deception evolved so that we could be better able to deceive others for some type of advantage. Okay. Now, a few other reasons. Trivers also explains that we deceive ourselves as a coping mechanism to protect ourselves, mainly to protect our self-image and self-esteem, or we did it to avoid the truth, either about ourselves, the truth about others, or the truth about our circumstances. And when you look at the bigger picture of this, you can see that we deceive ourselves to avoid pain and to avoid dealing with things that are uncomfortable to us. It's as if we don't want to deal with situations at hand. And why? Because at times it's easier to lie than to deal with the truth. Y'all know that. I mean, I'm sure some of y'all can relate. And some of us, we don't even want to know the truth because the truth conflicts with what we rather believe about ourselves. Y'all ever heard of the term cognitive dissonance? So cognitive dissonance is the discomfort you feel whenever you are faced with information that contradicts what you already believe to be true. So for example, let's say you have an opinion or an attitude about yourself that you're this perfect person who can never do wrong. Well, whenever there comes a time when you make a mistake or when you're at fault, you just gonna justify why what happened wasn't your fault by blaming it on somebody else or downplaying what happened to protect what you already believe about yourself. And that's the thing about us as people. We can be very protective of who we are, very protective of our beliefs. I mean, our beliefs mean a lot to us. And anything that contradicts what we believe, we tend to see it as a threat, even if it's the truth. Even if it's the truth. Did y'all hear about that woman who hired a person to kill somebody over some negative post on social media? Y'all, she paid somebody $20,000 for this person to be killed, all because of some online criticism. I mean, that's the story That's what the story says. But to me, like when we look underneath all of that, it sounds like she didn't want to ruin her reputation. And so she saw this person as a threat or potentially somebody who could ruin her reputation, ruin her self-image. And so she decided this person got to go. Let me get rid of this person. That's crazy. That's wild. And I mean, this is what people are willing to do. People are willing to go overboard and do the unthinkable. They're willing to do the unthinkable, even at the cost of detrimental consequences. Okay, we've talked about some of the reasons why we self-deceive, but what are the risks of self-deception? How does lying to yourself impact your life? Well, let's put it straight like this. Self-deception blinds us from seeing what we need to see. It blinds us from the problems we need to face to better our lives, to help better understand ourselves in the struggles we go through. Tell me, how can we make wise decisions if we are twisting reality and denying actual facts? Facts about how we feel and what we're going through. Do you know how many people have avoided going to the doctor after knowing something wasn't right? Something inside of them needed attention, but the fear of not knowing what that something was, the fear of not wanting to see the truth kept them back from going, only to find out that when they did go, now things are worse. Now they have stage 4 cancer. Now things are irreparable, which could have been prevented had they gone and got checked out earlier. Tell me, how many of you are afraid to speak up for yourself out of fear of saying the wrong thing or fear of starting conflict? And so what do? You continue to accept disrespect. You continue to accept unfair treatment. You lack setting boundaries and you say, I'm fine. It ain't that bad. I'm okay. But really, you've had enough. So many of us are holding ourselves back because we've told ourselves a lie about why we can't do something, why we're not good enough to have the life we dream and hope for. And we got to start challenging these things. We got to start challenging our beliefs, our perceptions, in the stories we tell ourselves. Are these things really true? What's the evidence that prove this? Most of us, we don't like when people lie to us. No, we don't. We want people to keep it real and keep it 100 with us. So why do we lie to ourselves? I'll tell you one thing. In life and on your journey of self-improvement, you need to have a solid and grounded relationship with yourself. And it starts with honesty. It starts with telling yourself the truth. And so today, I'm asking you to think about and ask yourself this. If I am being honest with myself, what in my life do I need to be more truthful about? What areas in my life am I holding myself back by making excuses, placing blame, or avoiding things that truly need my attention? Where do you find yourself getting defensive or upset when somebody points out something that might be uncomfortable but true? Think about it. Think about it. And I'll mention one more thing before I wrap up here, because I think a lot of us need to hear this in terms of, just benefits of being truthful with yourself. In one of Robert Triver's past lectures, which you can watch on YouTube, it's called The Folly of Fools. I don't really know the full name of the video, but I'll put in a link for y'all to watch it if y'all want to check it out. But he speaks about a study that was done, which there were two groups of adults, right? One group was asked to write about the most traumatic event in their life, typically a childhood event, which the most traumatic being sexual abuse, physical abuse, or a divorce, just to give y'all some examples. And they had to write about the traumatic event for 3 days in a private journal for 20 minutes about the trauma. And then the other group, which was the control group, they were asked to write about what they did for the day. Well, the interesting finding was that your mood goes down at first, right? If you're writing about the trauma, because you're having to re-experience something that's negative, which of course can be uncomfortable, especially because people are typically used to suppressing it. However, what they found is your immune system starts improving immediately. And if you know anything about, so let's say if you are under constant stress, right? If your nervous system is constantly being dysregulated, well, the first thing to be attacked is your immune system. And so they found that your immune system starts improving immediately. And then after 3 months, your immune system is still improving. And by now, your mood, which was low at first, is caught up with your immune system, and it's elevated way above the control group. So this shows that sharing trauma, even in a journal, it has immune benefits, and those in turn affects your mood in a positive way. Now, of course, we didn't always evolve writing in journals, right? Journals wasn't always around, so basically this just reflects the benefits of sharing it regardless, whether it's with another person or maybe sharing it with God through prayer. I think the most important thing is that, like, you're bringing things to the forefront and you're confronting what you've been stuffing down, and that in turn has a beneficial effect. And that lets us know just how important it is to share the things that's been bothering you, share the things that's been on your mind, share what you've been stuffing down. A lot of the things that we ignore and stuff down, like, those things are in the background impacting our lives in a impactful way, and not in a positive way, but in a negative way that's holding us back. And so I just thought that was interesting to share. So today we talked about self-deception, the history of self-deception, and why we self-deceive. We also talked about the impact self-deception has on your life and the benefits of being honest with yourself. And so now it's up to you. It's up to you to decide what to do with this information. What might you do differently now that you're a bit more familiar with self-deception, and how can you be more aware to practice honesty in your life? Remember, just like in the story of Adam and Eve, there will be people that might tempt you into doing what is not good for you. Or you might be tempted to do things based on how appealing something is. But just because something is appealing and attractive to the eye, it doesn't mean it's good for you. So watch out for the things you consume. Watch out for the people you keep around you. And work on building a relationship with yourself built on honesty. Because being honest with yourself can completely transform the person you are. Because now you see things for what they are. You're not running from it. You're confronting things head on. And that right there, that will completely transform your life. That will completely do wonders in your life. Trust me, I get it. There were things that I wasn't being honest with myself about, things that, like, I just didn't want to go down that route because fear was there, hurt was there, pain was there. And I didn't want to bring it to the forefront. I didn't want to be truthful about what happened, but I can't deny that those things was still bothering me. And it's only until I confronted it, it's only until I was being honest with myself, is when those things started to dwindle. I wasn't afraid to look down that path anymore. I wasn't afraid to confront those things. They no longer have this weight over me. it's like you feel a freedom. It's freeing. It's freeing. And this is what I want for you. This is what I hope for all of you. If you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't like it when they lie to you, do you? So be honest with yourself. Y'all, thanks so much for tuning in to my first episode of season 3. Oh my God, I did it. I did it. Oh my God. Okay, so listen, if you enjoyed what you saw today, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with somebody. Share it with somebody, and remember to like and subscribe to the podcast so that you can be notified of all new future episodes. Also, be sure to check out the podcast episode on Spotify or Apple if you have it, because it's a whole different. I mean, the show ain't too different, but how can I explain this? It's a little different. Listen, just check it out on Apple and Spotify, y'all. Check it out. And also be sure to follow me on IG at _underscore speaks. That's PREE _ SPEAKS. Until next time, look, I'm gonna catch y'all next week for the next episode. All right, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all week. Be blessed. Take care of yourself. Be honest with yourself. I'm gonna keep saying it. Until next time, peace and love.